At first glance, you may be inclined to dismiss Lae'zel, perhaps usually thinking, why her? She's harsh, and characters like Shadowheart, Karlach, or Gale are far more agreeable. However, such a reaction to me indicates a need for a more nuanced perspective. Lae'zel offers pointed and often uncomfortable critiques of the player's leadership in Baldur's Gate 3, paired with deeply felt responses to the world around her. These qualities reveal a level of complexity that transcends superficial preferences for characters deemed only as nice. Now, I should also say that this is going mostly on my experience playing Baldur's Gate 3, and in that was playing a fairly good traditional run, and the more obvious choices you would make in that. Please don't let this video assume your particular gameplay experience, because of course with a game like Baldur's Gate 3, that experience can span thousands of different choices and decisions you can make in the game, and your Lae'zel may look entirely different to mine. I am assuming a Lae'zel who is staunchly in the good ending of that character. The first point, and the one that I think is the most prevalent, is honesty. At the beginning of this game, every single character lies to you. If we go through the options of the romances available, we can determine who is the most honest with a clear paramount. Shadowheart and Gale lie so often it actively threatens you and the people around you. In particular, Gale, who happens to have a nuclear device in his chest that he never feels inclined to mention until you've already been around with him enough to have died at least a few times, which would have resulted in the death of everybody nearby. Shadowheart attempts to kill a powerful ally in Dame Aelin because her goddess of darkness, which we will come to, demanded her to. Karlach and Lae'zel, while both honest, only one of these two poses an active threat to you without intent. Karlach can enter a blood rage that can leave her or others nearby dead, including yourself. She has ties to major powers and having done work for them that compromises her values. Lae'zel, while still having been a killer, was a born and bred warrior made to slay her enemies in the Mind Flayers. The most pertinent point of all this is that Lae'zel's an effective warrior. She questions your decisions, often while remaining valid if you were to look at the world through her perspective. All threats of violence she makes are pointed at you and those she perceives to have slighted her, but not in assassination attempts or backhanded deceptions. She challenges her rivals to battles of honor, unlike Shadowheart, who will attempt to kill her in her sleep, or for her mother, Shar. With that said, discussions and comparisons between Shar and Vlaakith can be made, but it comes down to intent and how the two follow through of their abandonment. Shadowheart and Lae'zel both follow a god's word in a mirrored fashion. However, Lae'zel, having been deceived by her queen, discovers this and joins the battle against her to right her wrongs. She understands that she's not virtuous, but for her love of her people will pick up the sword to free them from a tyrant false god's rule. Shadowheart, however, consistently remains skeptical even after we are to voice our concerns, to see deceptions, and continues to lie to us, even after picking up the Spear of Night to kill the Night Song, constantly attempting to lie to the people she claims to trust. Shar chooses to abandon Shadowheart. Lae'zel chooses to defy Vlaakith and place her faith in you to help restore her people. She trusts you to make the correct decision, and while she can often be crude, violent, and direct, it's a result of her upbringing. Her actions, however, ring far louder than her words, and jeers as she is one of the most difficult characters to permanently lose in any way but death. Regarding her words, however, Lae'zel often has eyes rolled toward her for being cruel. To retort, she's never stepped foot on the material plane and was raised coldly to be a warrior. She's become one of the enemies of her own kind, and she owes no pleasantries to those who hinder or impede her, especially in actions that would prevent her from curing herself and your group. As players, we understand the Zaith'isk is a dead end, but Lae'zel, who places complete faith in her kind, understandably hurries the players to reach it and save themselves. Why would she entertain other ideas when her perceived answer is closer and more effective? When she suggests violence as the answer to many questions, what makes her different to Karlach, who not only does the same thing, but actively doesn't listen to you when you tell her to wait? Lae'zel has the faith to hold the ambush, while Karlach in many pivotal moments will rush ahead and cause further trouble. Lae'zel is a soldier who can adhere to strategies formed by people she trusts. She even comes to admire other members of the party openly. Her development in the party is one of her strongest endearments. Lae'zel's positive qualities shine through in moments of interaction. The artifact that is talked about by the Githyanki many a time is held by Shadowheart, although curiously, Lae'zel never seems to divulge this information to her kind, leaving it to you even when her god queen Vlaakith demands it. Lae'zel relies on you to teach her about the world and eventually comes to bond with you over battle. If we were to analyse the scene with you and her forming a genuine relationship in a duel, she speaks earnestly. She is upfront with her love and the relationship that is formed, and dedicates herself to you entirely, no matter the result of the battle. A piece of dialogue that resonates with me still, when it comes to Lae'zel, is an exchange in Act 1 between her and the player. They discuss the Druid's Grove, with Lae'zel chastising them for their cowardice. The player responds that they are survivors, not soldiers. However, Lae'zel responds that they are one and the same. For a character who had to battle Illithid, her own kind, and many outer planar monsters, this one line indicates Lae'zel's entire character and explains her demeanour. Lae'zel sees herself as a soldier, a warrior who has battled threats not only to her kind, but of her brethren. Such is the nature of the gift. However, any other character with a softer edge would be seen as a survivor, as someone who braved her trials rather than fought them. Lae'zel fought her challenges while living to survive them. Lae'zel is a soldier, and soldiers are survivors. Why choose her over the others? She's by far the most honest and questions the decisions you make from an objective standpoint without morality factoring. If the question is to save two groups from one another, why spend more time resolving it peacefully when you can instead end one and resolve the problem efficiently? She trusts you easily after seeing your aptitude in battle, speaking to you plainly without skirting issues that are present in the moment. She is honourable. Killing is a part of the group's day-to-day life, so when she suggests battle, is she unreasonable? Especially when those battles are face-to-face, she abhors assassination and instead chooses to rise to challenge. Finally, when her demeanour cracks, she is a curious personality who is simply lost in a plane she's never set foot on. She makes her way through the Sword's Coast without compromising on her ideals, while still letting them be challenged, and ultimately deciding for herself to align with a new banner to free her people. She is an honourable warrior, soldier, and survivor. I really liked Baldur's Gate 3, and I still really do. I think it's an incredible game, and I still play it a lot. That's not why I'm making this video, though. And not at all, in fact. I was originally going to make an AI chatbot video. No. The reason I'm making this video is because I personally have maybe the biggest crush in the entire world on Devora Wild.
Scraw! My ducks. In a row. Ordered. Disciplined. Behaving predictably.